Good morning, everyone. So we still have people joining in, like we have close to more than 50 people on the call. We just wait for 2 more minutes and we'll get the webinar started. And welcome all of you who's already logged in. So this webinar is mainly, our focus is primarily on the free zone sector. So I'm sure there's still a lot of questions coming to your team, as well as creative zone when they come to set up their business. There's a lot of questions coming up. So this is still always a hot topic. So I think there's a lot of questions again. So if you have any questions that you might want to address, please type in the chat section or the question answer sections, and we would definitely address them. We just give it 2 more minutes and yes, we are recording the session. It's also it's live streamed on the social channels. So even after this webinar, you can definitely go and watch the recording. So yes, and we will send this over to all of you once we close this webinar. So all of you are having existing businesses, or do you have any specific questions? Please type in the chat. We can address anything that's coming up right now. Okay, Richard has already a question. So let's, before getting into the questions, so let me again introduce you to the lovely team here. We have Zishan Tour, he is the General Manager of Creative Zone Tax and Accounting. And we have Mohammed, he is the Head of Tax, the expert in this field actually. So he would be precisely answering all your specific questions. And if you still have more questions, please always feel free to contact Mohammed or Zishan directly, and they'll be always ready to help. So coming to Zishan, so just give a brief about yourself. I'm sure there'll be new attendees also in this webinar. So just to give you an idea who we are, who Creative Zone is, who Creative Zone Tax and Accounting are. So as Creative Zone, we're one of the leading business setup consultancies in the UAE. We've been in the industry for over 13 years now, and Creative Zone Tax and Accounting is a specialized wing in tax and accounting domain, and Zishan is the general manager. So over to you, Zishan.
Thank you. First of all, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining in. So as Neha said, we have set up Creative Zone Tax and Accounting for the sole purpose of providing tax and accounting services to our clients. It started with VAT when VAT came into place, but now it's extending to CT as well, which is going to be a very important part of this UAE regime that we're going into now. UAE has introduced this corporate tax on 1st June. It's been implemented and it's going smooth now, but it is starting to pick up more starting Jan 24. That's where everyone's financial year starts. So that is where it will be even more, trending than it is now. So this is why Creative Zone was set up back in Creative Zone Tax and Accounting was set up back in Jan 2018, and we're extending, we're growing. We have a very extensive team which comprises of qualified people or people who are working towards their qualifications. And our tax team is being headed by Mohammed, who is our tax agent as well. Mohammed, over to you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. To give a brief about our company, so Creative Zone Tax and Accounting was set up in 2018 to serve our clients in terms of the tax and accounting requirements. We have been accredited as a tax agency since back then, 2018. Myself, I'm the accredited tax agent. We assist and represent our clients with the tax authority. We assist them in terms of the VAT, and now we are assisting with corporate tax. We have our team of experts that assists our clients with all the tax and accounting requirements, assisting our Creative Zone clients with the impact of the corporate tax, with transfer pricing, the VAT, and as well the accounting. So we have a well-equipped team to assist you, and today we'll go through the highlights of the free zones and some of your questions that might be related to mainland as well. So we hope that this will be beneficial to all of our clients and attendees.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Zishan. I know we've been doing this series for the last 6 months. This is our 4th series addressing the same topic. So Richard's question for you is, has there been any meaningful change in legislation regarding corporate tax within the last 6 months? So I know it's a 9% tax. I'm sure everybody here knows it's 9%. I mean, leaving the basics, is there anything else that needs to be highlighted that you want to address?
Well, just to start from the basics, the last 6 months is a very big period for corporate tax purposes because most of the important things did happen in the last 6 months. And these were when new regulations about qualified free zones, small business relief, and other things came into place. When we talk about last 6 months, it's a very big period for corporate tax regulation because this is very, that particular period where most of the things came into place. But
Every
if we
day
talk
is a
about,
new day.
yeah, exactly. But if you talk about the last 1 month, there still have been some changes, but on a minor level. And we'll go over them once we come to that phase. But there have been some major things that have been happening in the last 6 months.
So to begin with, okay, what is a free zone person? So since this is primarily focused on free zones, let's get started there, okay? A free zone person, who is that free zone person and what are their obligations? Who wanted it?
Yeah. So a free zone person is a company or a person, that juridical person that's set up under the free zone regulations. For example, if you have a license with one of the free zones in the UAE, you are considered as a free zone person.
Okay.
So in general, the term free zone person covers all juridical persons that are established under the regulations of one of the free zones in the UAE.
And again, it's still a question. Is my company, I'm a free zone company, am I eligible or applicable to register for corporate tax? Is it that every company is mandated to do this, right?
Regarding the registration, every company is required to register for corporate tax, to submit annual tax return, regardless whether you are a free zone person or a mainland company. It's still required for you to register for corporate tax, to submit annual tax return. This is regardless of your status, whether you will be a qualifying free zone person or not. You will need to register for corporate tax.
Okay, and the threshold again, it's 375,000 dirhams, right? That is net profit.
Yeah. So regarding the threshold of 375, this is regarding the tax rate. So the tax rate is 0% for the net profit up to 375,000 dirhams, while the net profit above 375,000 dirhams is taxed at 9%. But this is applicable for mainland, for free zone person who is not a qualifying free zone person. For qualifying free zone person would be different.
Can you, yeah, Zishan.
I just wanted to add something to this because we get a lot of clients who have further questions of, well, I don't have any activity, well, I don't have any bank account, well, I don't have this, I don't do this, I have small business
revenue, how do
I have 200,000 net profit. So regardless of each of those examples, CT is still applicable. You still need to register.
Even if you don't have a bank account, you still
it does not matter whether you have a bank account or not. It does not matter whether you don't do any activity, you have done zero activity. It does not matter if you are only subject to 0% tax. You still have to register, maintain books, and file your returns.
So if I have zero in transactions, I still have to maintain.
Yes. Well, it will be 000,
Yeah,
but still
you have to show that.
So what happens is, what we've seen also is authorities ask for financials and they usually give a time period, and you have to adhere to those time periods because there are penalties for not providing financials.
Right. Okay. And there's no deadline as such for them, right? For registration?
No, there's no deadline technically for registration, but there is a deadline for CT returns, which is 9 months after financial year. Hence, so logically thinking, you need to be registered before you file a return. Right. So it is recommended from our end that you do it as soon as possible, but that's technically your deadline. You can.
Right. I mean, quite often it becomes like a rush towards the end. I mean, you still say, okay, there's 9 months, but 9 months will just fly by. So, yeah.
It does.
It's better to maintain the books because I think there's a lot of prerequisites that needs to be done prior to registration. So maintaining your books, if you haven't done that yet, even if you have 0 transactions in your balance sheet, still maintain everything, register so that everything is. I mean, and you never know the fines that might come in. We can't predict what would be the implication. So it's always better to be prepared beforehand. All right. We'll come back to the qualifying activities. So we just have a few questions. I'll just take a few questions from the audience. Do we need to register an SPV based in AGDM for corporate tax?
This as well might be required to register. The registration for this is still not open yet, but
Okay.
yes, might be required to register. Depends as well on what we'll be doing as the business for this.
Okay. It depends on the business activity here.
Yeah, it
Okay.
depends whether this drives income or not, how it's structured as well.
Okay. So I think that's answered. So if you have more questions, I think you will have to define what your business activities are so that we will give you a better picture of if it actually requires to be registered or not. All right. I would like to ask questions regarding a company registered with the DMCC operating under the proprietary trading in licensed crypto commodities. Okay. Which in our case is income. We trade cryptocurrency on cryptocurrency exchanges for the cryptocurrency of the company's founders without attracting funds from third parties. We do not exchange cryptocurrency for fiat because it is very difficult to open a corporate bank account for cryptocurrency company. Did you understand the questions, or it's mainly I could see a lot of cryptocurrency going on?
I can understand what they mean. But the thing is that it does not matter whether you're dealing with cryptocurrency, whether you're earning income from a particular, a clientele, or you're earning a specific type of income from crypto, you're still earning income. And whether even if you're not, you still need to do registration, bookkeeping, and return. That's a requirement that does not change if you're doing crypto or something
So
related to crypto.
regardless of the currency, you still have to register. All right. Is there a deadline to register for corporate tax? Yes, 9 months before the financial
9 months
after the financial. So
for returns.
right. Creative City Media Services companies are now accepted for tax registration. Would you know that? Creative City?
So the registration is not
Open yet?
by jurisdiction, so it depends on the legal type of the company. So registration is open for all the juridical persons. Registration is still not open for
Media
sole
companies?
establishments. No, it doesn't matter the activity.
Okay.
It matters the legal status.
Okay.
It's still not open for sole establishments and civil companies. Other than that, the registration is open for everyone, regardless of your activity or your reason.
Okay. Okay, that's a good information. So, do you have any timeline of when the sole proprietor,
we are still waiting update from the tax. It's supposed to be in October or November, as they announced earlier, but still not yet open.
I'm sure there will be something coming up by the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
Because your financial years begin at.
Yeah, we expect that before the end of the year to be open.
Okay. I want to have information on tax implemented on foundation in the IFC.
Okay. I think we are going into
It's specific.
Questions. I would answer this question, but I would suggest to go into more of the information we want to share with our audience, and then we can go through the questions. So regarding the family foundations have the option to apply to be treated as an unincorporated partnership. Unincorporated partnership, the liability usually shifts to the persons. So let's say you set up a family foundation, you and your family, and if you apply, this is not automatically. When you apply to the FTA to treat the family foundation as unincorporated partnership, then it will shift based on the percentage of your profit in the family foundation to each person, and the tax burden will go to the personal
of each person.
Each person.
It's divided.
Yeah, it's called like a transparent for tax purposes.
Okay. All right. Now I have one question. If no revenue is derived from the UAE, does this corporate tax apply on revenues being generated from international clients?
So by nature, as your company is set up in the UAE, are considered a tax resident in the UAE. The company is resident in the UAE, therefore the UAE tax regime tax worldwide income of the residents. So if your company is set up in the UAE, you are resident in the UAE, therefore you are taxed on worldwide.
Okay, so it is taxable still.
Yes.
What if it has, I have an offshore company?
Still, if the company is set up in the UAE under the UAE law,
No, okay.
it's still the taxable person.
How does qualification to be a free zone company work? If a free zone company is not qualified to be a free zone person for tax purposes, can I use small business relief?
Yeah, so small business relief is available for juridical persons like companies where the annual revenue does not cross 3 million dirhams. Then you can apply to elect to benefit from the small business relief. If you are not a qualifying free zone person, yes, we can apply for it.
So can you define a qualifying free zone person?
Okay, a qualifying free zone person is maintaining adequate substance in the free zone, complying with the transfer pricing regulation, driving qualifying income. So if you maintain these three conditions, then you will be able to benefit from the corporate tax regime for the free zones.
Okay, and do we have a list of those qualifying activities or qualifying income?
Yes, so in general, qualifying income is income generated by the free zone person from another free zone, which is not from the excluded activities. There is list of activities that are excluded, and income derived with non-free zone person, but only from the qualifying activities. So this in general, the qualifying income. There is a list of excluded activities, like for example, transactions with individuals, banking, financial. So these activities are excluded. If you do them whether with a free zone person or non-free zone person, it does not qualify as a qualifying activity.
Okay. Zisha, anything you want to add more?
Yeah, so you asked about the list of activities of qualifying activities, right? There is a list of 14, I think, activities. One more was recently added, which are being considered the only qualifying activities that someone can do with, mainland company, like Mohammed said. And that is specifically, for this qualified free zone person. One thing that I wanted to also add on qualified free zone person is they are also required to do audits. Audit is a compulsory thing for anyone who wants to take advantage of this relief for qualified free zone persons.
So not every company has to do an audit. They just have to maintain the books, but if they have to show that they're qualified free zone, they have to.
Yes, so audit is compulsory for two types of companies. One who has annual turnover of 50 million or more.
Okay.
And the other is for qualified free zone persons who are taking advantage of this benefit.
Yeah. And you spoke about the small business relief, right? How long is it applicable for? Can I do it lifelong or?
Yeah. The small business relief is applicable to tax years up to the end of 2026, up to December 2026. So up to now, it's available for these tax years up to then. We are not sure whether it's going to be extended, it's going to end there, but up to now, it's available up to the year 2026.
And after that, you are eligible for corporate tax 5%. You can't avail that.
But by nature, you are a tax-free person. So to highlight here that the small business relief not automatically, but we need to elect to benefit from the small business relief. So at the time of the submission of the tax return, you must apply to benefit from the small business relief. When it comes to the time 2026 that it will not be available, then you will return to be a tax-free person by nature and pay corporate tax according to your net profit.
Okay, so the question: what is the SME startup exemption for 3 million dirham? That is what small business relief. Where is it coming from?
So the UAE has a jurisdiction that wants others to be leading jurisdiction and supporting the small businesses. This was offered by the UAE government to help and support small businesses to grow, not to burden them with the taxes and administration of taxes. That's why it came in place to support small businesses.
So again, we have a few questions. You must pay. I'm not sure if it's bad. I think you meant corporate tax as a free zone if you make only business with Europe. Yes, I mean if your company is registered in the UAE, you are subject to corporate tax. How is foreign source income treated? I think again we spoke about that. If your company is registered in the UAE, you will have to register yourself for corporate tax regardless of where the income is coming from. If you start a business on 1st Jan 2024, your financial year will be 1st Jan 24 to 1st Jan 25. Okay, and you'd have until September 25 to register and pay corporate tax, right?
Yeah, okay. So to highlight the financial year, so financial year for most of the companies is a calendar year, January to December. So if the company is existing before that, then it will be January to December. But we have also seen the companies that were set up with, let's say, September, October, November 23, and their first financial year cannot be less than 6 months or more than 18 months. So their first year is going to be a longer period. Let's say you set up your company 1st of November 23.
Yes.
So your first tax year will be from 1st of November, the setup date, up to December 24. This is the first tax year, and therefore you follow. After that, you follow calendar year.
Okay. Okay. So suppose I set up a company today. It will be until next year this day I can file for my corporate tax, and then starting 25, it will be from Jan 25 to 26. Okay. And where can I find my your financial year? I mean, if I'm confused.
So you can find more information on your financial year, on your memorandum of association, your articles of incorporation. And these legal documents usually have some clause mentioned about your financial year. So it's important to understand that by default, as Mohammed said, generally it's Jan to December, most companies, but it is important so that you know and you file your things, your compliance requirements, you fulfill according to your financial year. Is that very important?
One of the updates that came from the FTA before that to change the tax year. So some companies would ask to change the tax year. You are allowed to change the tax year, but for a specific reason. For example, you want to join a tax group or you want to align your tax year with the head office or with a group, then you can apply to the tax authority to change
the financial year. That's possible.
That's possible.
At a fee or no?
There's no fee, but there are specific reasons, like we mentioned, that if you satisfy one of them, yes, you can apply to change.
Okay. Is registration become mandatory as company come into existing, or are there any time limit? What are the penal provision for delay in registration?
So again, this comes back to whether there's a timeline for registrations, right? So right now, technically, there's no registration deadline. This again will be with your return deadline. So same what your deadline for your return will be, it will be similar to that.
Okay. All right. Deepika has a very specific question. Again, I think it's better to take that offline because I'm just putting the question out there to get a feel of my question is taxability of high sea sales. What are the eligible agriculture commodities? Third one, DMCC company, non-designated zone, routing goods through JAXA, that is designated zone, can we become qualified free zone? So I think these are very industry business activity specific questions. So Deepika, I think we'll come back to that because it's more niche to your area of interest. So we'll come back to that after the webinar, maybe. Okay. So I have a few questions from my side too. How is income derived from immovable property in a free zone treated for tax purposes?
So income derived from immovable properties in the free zone. If it's with non-free zone person, this would be taxable.
Mohammed, 1 second. The sound is breaking. I'm not sure if you can hear us clearly. Just let us know in the chat if you can hear us. So we may try to adjust. Sorry for interrupting. Yes, immovable property.
So income derived from immovable property is depends whether it's commercial or residential. So the commercial property, if income derived from immovable property with non-free zone person, this would be a taxable income.
And what about from the income from qualifying intellectual property calculated?
So income derived from qualifying intellectual property. This is one of the updates that was added to the qualifying activity. So this can be as a qualifying income if it's income derived from qualified intellectual property.
All
This
right.
was one of the recent updates from the FDA to add it to the qualifying.
Okay. So there's Richard is coming back again. So everyone has to change to a tax year to December after the first year. It's not mandatory, right?
It's not mandatory. So if your financial year was defined earlier, other than January to December, yes, you follow this.
Okay.
But if your financial year was not defined before, then you follow January to December.
Okay. So whatever you have previously, follow the same thing unless there's a reason that you have to make it to Jan to December.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, coming to the income, the revenue generator or the cost. So he's saying, how about depreciation? Is there any different rates for that, or how is it calculated on the profit who wants to take it?
I think this question is coming from someone who has experience with other jurisdictions outside UAE. So normally, other jurisdictions, what they do is they provide specific rules for depreciation. But for now, what the authorities in UAE have done, they've said to use the standard financial, the IFRS, the standards for financials, which is supposed to be used by everyone. There is a special for small businesses. There is IFRS for small business, small and medium enterprises. Those can be used. But for now, that's it. There is no specific clause of how to calculate your depreciation for tax purposes. There's no differentiation as of now.
Okay. So if a company, another one, is in a free zone having employees in mainland working from home, will the adequate substance satisfy it? Any idea what that
Okay,
question?
so regarding the adequate substance, in order for the free zone person to be able to meet the adequate substance, he must have adequate number of qualified employees in the free zone, adequate assets, adequate expenses that you spend in the free zone, and your core income generating activity is in the free zone. So if this is not met, the free zone person will not be qualified free zone. There is provisions to outsource this, subject that you have adequate supervision over the outsourcing.
So this person is having employees in the mainland working from home. That was a question, right?
This I don't think would meet the adequate substance
Okay.
in the free zone, but we can look into this.
I think we saw with COVID that there were special rules that were introduced for VAT also for that specific time period. But right now, there's nothing for work from home situations that has been specifically defined as of now.
Okay.
So as of now, as Mohammed said, that this would be considered as working from UAE. It's not considered as working from free zone.
Right.
And for
But it's still salary will be deducted that can be shown in the
but that's true for any place. The employee can be any
anywhere
place.
in the world, yeah.
Exactly. So the point here is that anyone who is deriving income and taking advantage of that relief, they should be doing work, specifically the activities also that they're doing from the free zone itself to take advantage of this relief that is available to only qualified people in the free zone.
Okay. So yeah, you have to be within the same free zone.
Yes.
All right. Again, do our accounts have to be audited by a UAE registered accountant, or can we use our UK accountants?
So the accounting records must follow the IFRS. The tax authority or the law does not specify how you maintain the accounting, who maintains the accounting records for you. You can do it yourself if you are able to follow the IFRS. You can do it using the UK accountant. You can do it using anyone in the UAE. It's not restricted to a specific category that should do your accounts. Regarding the audits, as Dishan mentioned, it's for specific categories. If you have revenue more than 50 million dirhams a year, or if you are a qualifying free zone person, regardless of the revenue.
Okay. Mohammed Ikram is asking, can you please elaborate qualifying income and the criteria? I guess I have.
Okay.
Because I think it's a bit confusing,
Yeah.
because we're getting a lot of these questions over and over again. So in simple terms, maybe not the tax head kind of terms.
Okay. So qualifying income is income derived from a free zone person that is not from the excluded activities.
Mhm.
So if you are doing business with another free zone person with any activity other than the excluded activity, this is a qualifying income. This is number one. After that, if you are driving income from non-free zone person, whether it's mainland or outside the UAE, from a qualifying activity, it must be one of the qualifying activities and not excluded activity. And income from qualifying intellectual property.
Okay.
These are the qualifying income.
Okay, all right. I hope,
Just
yes,
so as you saw that this is a technical topic, and it has more complexities within it. This is just one part of being able to be eligible for that relief. Qualifying income is one part. There are 4 other parts that need to be looked at before someone can actually get that relief.
Mhm.
De minimis criteria is one of them.
Mhm.
Audit is one of them. There are other conditions as well. So we recommend that you get some professional help if you
Yeah.
have someone on your team who is, you know, very up to date on the law and has knowledge of this. Then that is the
It's
person
not
that you
like a black and white situation.
It is not very simple. You have to get into the technicalities, get into the complexities, and then be able to take advantage of that relief.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more of the questions, because it's very much related to what you do, what your business activities are, where it's which free zone, everything. So, and that's why consultants like them are here to explain in depth, so we understand the business model, and then advise which relief or whatever incentives that can be taken. Will advise the best possible measures that's applicable for your business activity. All right. Again, coming to the expense side of things, Natural has a question. I have a company with single ownership myself. Can I hire myself and give me a salary? Yeah. Will that be considered as a regular expense, or does it have any special treatment?
So salaries in general are deductible expense, but salaries when it's to a connected person, when you are the shareholder or the owner of the company, you are considered as connected person to the company. Therefore, salaries to connected persons would need to comply with transfer pricing.
Mhm.
So you would need to look at benchmarking of salary for a position like yours in a company at your size, how much would be. So it must be compliant with arm's length principle that the salary is at the market price. However, if it's, for example, for sole establishments, now the FTE clarified that sole establishments, if you are a sole owner of the company, you cannot give yourself a salary because the
Okay.
company is considered as extension to yourself. Sole
Okay.
establishment doesn't have a separate legal identity from the owner. So if you cannot give yourself a
A
salary.
salary in that cases. All right. Director salaries. How much history can be there, keeping in view professional judgment under RP?
Okay, so salaries again to directors, the same, would follow the transfer pricing regulations. As this is, the idea is that this might be influenced by the relation between the director and the company. So might be not according to the market price, might be influenced by the relation. So therefore, this needs to go through the transfer pricing regulations to make sure that this is amount of salaries at arm's length.
Okay. Coming back to the auditing of books, right? I am a qualified accountant, but I can create. I'm not a qualified accountant. Sorry, my mistake. I'm not a qualified accountant, but I can create IFRS compliant accounts easily. Can I self-certify my accounts?
You can create the accounts, but by audited you mean it's approved and signed by a local UAE approved auditors. The auditors in the UAE here are usually accredited by the Ministry of Economy. They have their accreditation number and their stamp. So you will need to go through one of the auditors in the UAE in order to have it audited. If you are required to submit audited financial statement.
Okay. Again, the question is coming back to RAF ICC offshore company requires to be registered for corporate tax. Yes.
Yes. Again, it's the same thing. Every company, regardless of free zone, regardless of any designated zones or any other jurisdictions that we have in UAE, it does not matter. You still have to be registered. Make sure you maintain books and then file returns.
Yeah, so despite being an offshore company, your income is derived from international sources, but still it is a UAE entity. So yes, you have to register for the corporate tax. Right?
Yes.
Okay, I have a free zone company and doing only third country trade. Okay, I think it's the same thing. No business buying or selling in UAE. Now I live regularly in the UAE. Will my company's profits be taxable under corporate tax law? Yes. My turnover is more than 2 million USD. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Just want to hear from the experts.
Yeah. So yeah, again, it's the same thing.
Reassuring, yeah.
Yes, it will be applicable. You have to do all of those three things that you mentioned, and because it's 2 million USD, so that's above the 3 million small business relief. That's also available. So you won't be able to take advantage of that either.
I have a question. If I have a company, again, no sales, no revenue, whatever, I mean, or basic minimum less than 100,000 to 375,000 dirhams. I don't maintain VAT account. Is that mandatory? Should I maintain VAT for CP or is it correlated or?
You should maintain the accounting records, the financial records as per the international financial reporting standards for the accounting.
Mhm.
This can be the same for the VAT, the same for corporate tax. And the time of the submission of the corporate tax, there would be adjustments to be done to your financial statements.
Okay.
But for VAT, VAT is a totally different tax. It's
Yes.
totally independent of corporate tax. It has its own qualification method. You have to look at your threshold. If you cross a certain threshold, only then you can apply for it.
Right.
Before that, you cannot.
So it's not mandatory to register for VAT prior to registering for CT.
No,
It's not
It's not.
interrelated
It's
at
not
all.
correlated.
Two different.
It's totally independent.
Okay. If a free zone mainland company has sales purchases which is not touching the UAE ports, is it be out of scope like that, or will there be CD? Yes, it is a UAE free zone company, which is again, I mean, that's why we just want to reinforce. I know you all want to hear that, okay, your company is exempted from paying taxes, but unfortunately, that's not the case. So regardless of the way you frame your question, yes, if your company is registered in anywhere in the UAE, whether it be offshore, free zone, mainland, you are entitled to register for corporate tax. I think, I mean, this is our recent chats again. I think we've been reiterating the same thing, but I know you would like to hear it's free or no corporate tax for you, but you would have to, register for it. 1 second. I have something. What is a domestic permanent establishment?
So permanent establishment can be, for example, if we're talking about a free zone, if you have a free zone company, you have a branch of this free zone company in the mainland. This makes a permanent establishment in the mainland, which would be subject to the corporate tax.
Okay. Now, what happens if a free zone person fails to meet the prescribed conditions?
So if a free zone fails to meet the conditions for qualifying free zone person or to drive the qualifying activities or does not meet the de minimis requirement, the free zone person will be subject to the corporate tax at the normal rates.
What is the de minimis requirement?
So the de minimis requirement is that in order to satisfy this condition, your income derived from non-qualifying income must not exceed 5% of the total revenue. So if you have revenue from qualifying activities, revenue from non-qualifying, so you have two incomes, one qualifying, one non-qualifying. The non-qualifying should not exceed 5% of the total revenue.
Okay.
This is one of the conditions for the free zone to be able to benefit from the 0% regime.
Okay. Anything to add, Sushan?
No, this is again one of those complexities that it is something that you need to know, but it is also not something that everyone will easily understand. That's why we recommend to always try to get advice from someone who has complete knowledge of this.
what will be the tax treatment for bad debt provision, exchange gain, loss, and capital gain? Now I have too many bad debts. So how does
This would
that?
follow IFRS. You follow
Okay.
international financial reporting standards for recording the bad debts for anything that's related to the transactions, how the financial statements are built. You follow IFRS.
Mhm.
So it has nothing specific regarding the corporate tax.
Okay, all right. And have they announced any legal, fines or anything if there's a delay in registration of corporate tax or any penalties?
There was a cabinet decision issued for regarding the penalties. The registration penalty is not yet announced.
Okay,
There is no deadline yet for the registration, but yet there is a cabinet decision for the violations or of the corporate tax law.
okay. One more, we are a crypto company and have corporate bank account abroad with a small turnover. How could we count our income? They didn't say where their company is registered, but have a corporate bank account.
So again, this will you will have to follow the international financial reporting standard
Right.
IFRS to account for your income. And then if you're in UAE, then have CP applied.
Okay. Does UAE have any double tax treaties?
Yes, the UAE has double tax agreements with many countries. There is a list that you can get from the tax authority of the countries that the UAE has double tax agreements with them. Now the tax treaties will be active as the corporate tax is implemented in the UAE, and there are categories that will be able to benefit from the double tax treaties in the UAE. So now the UAE as well, it's been a long time that the UAE is issuing the tax residency certificate. And this is for the purpose of the tax treaties, the double tax agreements with the countries. So you don't get double taxed in your home country, for
And the
example,
UAE, yeah.
and the UAE, or some countries they deduct withholding tax from you when you do provide services in their countries. So the tax residency certificate helps to avoid the double taxation of companies.
This is a question coming up. Is high sea sales taxable? Yeah.
Generally, it follows the same principle. There's no segregation of these particular activities. There is something specific regarding shipping, but again, this has to be looked into more detail about the definition and what do they mean by high sea sales. But we'd be happy to take this question in person. I think this was the question that was asked earlier.
Yes, the details did start coming back with the same question. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
We'll be able to take that question in person and go into more depth to understand their services and then provide advice on that.
Perfect. Under what circumstances are free zone revenues able to qualify for a zero tax rate? So we've listed if the income is less than 375,000 dirhams.
So a qualifying free zone person. So if you qualify as a qualifying free zone person, that you meet the conditions, the adequate substance, the complies transfer pricing regulations, the de minimis requirement, and then you conduct one of the qualifying activities, or you have qualifying income. So in simple terms, if you are qualifying free zone person, generating qualifying income, and you are able to benefit from the 0% corporate tax.
Okay. In what cases transfer pricing provisions are applicable, or what are the additional compliances required to be made in case transfer pricing is applicable?
So transfer pricing regulations are applicable where there are transactions with related parties or connected persons. So related parties, for example, if you own another company outside of the UAE or another company in the UAE, and you have transactions between the two companies, then this transaction, as you are controlling the two companies or you have interest in the two companies, this might influence the price that you use in the transactions between the companies. Therefore, the transactions with related parties goes under transfer pricing. The other thing is transactions with connected person. You are the owner of the company, you have your son, your daughter, your wife, one of your relatives in the company. So this can be influenced by the relationship with the connected person, or you are a director of the company and you are getting a salary, or let's say the company is giving a loan to the director or getting a loan from one of the shareholders. All these under the transfer pricing regulations. What compliances comes with this, that you must comply with the transfer pricing regulations to make sure that transactions with related parties and connected persons at arm's length. In simple words, arm's length principle is to make sure that this transaction, if it was done with external person, it will be the same as you have done it with the connected person or the related parties. And so to do that, there are a lot of steps that would need to be taken. First, to look at identify your related parties transactions, identify your connected persons transactions. Then you would need to make sure that these transactions are at arm's length. This can be done through benchmarking, and there are methods announced used by the OECD according to the transfer pricing guidelines, which the UAE follows the same. So you would need to use one of the methods to reach to the transfer pricing. Let's say you do a transaction between your company and another related transaction. So first you need to identify that this is a related party transaction. Then you need to identify which method you are going to use to reach to the fair price. And then you use this method to reach to which price I should charge to this entity to be sure that this will be according to their arm's length principle. And after that, there will be a transfer pricing disclosure needs to happen. And there is transfer pricing documentation is required, but this is for a specific category of business, not for everyone to transfer pricing.
Okay, it's a long process, basically.
Yeah, actually, it's a long process.
Okay, so Vivek, I'm sure you must have understood portions of, and I'm sure, I mean, if you're into this, you're much more likely to understand the procedure. Now, if you have any questions, this was a question from Vivek. So feel free to ask Mohammed so you can get into detail of your specific question. Vivek also has a question. Can we register for corporate tax ourselves within the UAE official website, or do we need an agent to register?
The registration, you can do it by yourself or use an agent. It's up to you. It's not.
Again, is it a complicated process? Would it be advisable to use an agent?
It's always advisable to use a professional to when it comes to the tax matters. But if a person is able to do it himself through the website, yes, it's allowed to do it. I have no problem.
Is there any additional return to be filed for transfer pricing?
Transfer pricing, you wouldn't need to file a return, but there will be a disclosure to be done at the time of the submission of the tax return. If you are one of under the category that needs documentation, this will have much more complicated requirements in terms of the transfer pricing documentation.
Okay. Vivek has FTA services are only available through UAE Pass. What is UAE Pass?
Yeah. Okay. So this is something that the UAE is introducing and has been introducing for quite some time, where your Emirates ID or your personal links or your personal, profile is used by the authorities.
You can just download this app. You can register your Emirates ID. I mean, everything linked your status in the UAE it's like a summary of everything. It has everything. It's a good app to download. I mean, it's very handy. It has everything there, including your COVID vaccinations, I think. All of that.
Now your bank accounts are also accessible through that. You have your, the RTA being accessible through that. So it's the authority is basically converting everything through UAE Pass for any individual.
So just download that with your. I mean, I think you have to register with your Emirates ID or register your phone number. It's very simple. So just go ahead and download the app. I think that's kind of pretty much summarizes the questions, unless there's any more. Passive income received from investments and dividends through equity participation from other entities incorporated outside the UAE. Are they taxable or not?
So dividends from holding shares outside the UAE can go under the participation exemption. There's something called participation exemption, but this has conditions to be met that you have more than 5% of ownership of the company where you hold the shares, and that the company is taxed in the jurisdiction where it is of 9% or more corporate tax, that you hold or intend to hold the shares for 12 months. So there are some conditions. If these are met, you can elect to benefit from the participation exemption.
Okay.
If it's shares in a company inside the UAE, then it's exempt. You don't need to do anything.
All right. Perfect. Okay, it's almost time. So again, we're getting questions based on, qualifying income, what are the income sources. I'm sure we did cover all of that in the beginning of the webinar. So it's just, just go back, and if you have missed that section, go back. You can see all the questions being addressed over there. I think it's almost the same questions that's coming in right now. We've already covered it, so I'm not going through every detail now.
If there are any further questions, our team can post the email of our team. You can reach out to us directly. We'll be happy to assist you.
Yes, we'll post our email addresses on the chat, so you can refer to. You can address it to either Zishan or Mohammed or both of them, and we'll be more than happy to address all your questions. So meantime, any closing comments from your side, Mohammed, first you?
So we would suggest now businesses to start looking at how the corporate tax will impact them, because as we have discussed, it's different from one business to the other. One would need to be ready for the qualifying free zone regime, one to apply for small business relief. So every business, what I would suggest currently to look at impact assessment to see how corporate tax will impact my business, what reliefs I can benefit from, what exemptions might be applicable for me, and start to close their financial year for 2023, so we'll be able to be ready for 24 with the start of the first tax year for most of the companies.
So Creative Zone Tax and Accounting does give this service of impact assessment, right? How you can navigate your business with the best possible solution.
Yeah, we have impact assessment service where we look into details of the business and do our analysis and issue our report, how the corporate tax will impact you, what reliefs you can benefit from, what compliances you need to do, what deadlines you will have. All this is in our report. So yes, we do assist our clients with the impact assessment service.
All right. Thank you, Mohammed. Zishan?
Well, my final remarks would be again to stress the importance of every business that needs registration, bookkeeping, and return. These are the 3 steps that every company needs to do, regardless of anything, regardless of activity, as I said before, bank account, jurisdiction, free zone, whether small business relief is applicable, whether any other relief is applicable. These 3 things are compulsory for everyone. So please make sure you do maintain your books, first of all, and then have yourself register for corporate tax, either yourself or get professional help, and then make sure you're maintaining your books and then file your return properly with the reliefs, that will also be applicable and how to get them done. So please do that without fail.
And we do offer free corporate tax registration, right, until the end of the year?
Yes, we do have that as well. So we can definitely help you guys set up, especially if you need that initial assistance. Especially with Creative Zone clients, we have very lucrative promotions also running up, and those are going to be there to help you get, starting your business, get running on your business.
Yeah. So now it's not just setting up a business. We have to look into registering yourself for corporate tax. So it doesn't just start with, or it doesn't just end with, getting a trade license. It's just the beginning, to be honest. That's our tagline also, because business setup is just the beginning. That's where everything starts. Then we have compliance, we have you have to maintain your books, your corporate tax, everything has to go in simultaneously. And we're always there to help you, guide you, and to go through this together. Again, their team is quite strong. So they have, how many professionals do you have in your team?
So, in total, we have about 50 plus people
Yes.
that are working at
So
Creative.
we have a huge team behind corporate tax and any accounting services for that matter. So yes, with that, I think we can, if there's any more questions, I think you've received the email, the website link, so you can put in your questions there or connect with us on LinkedIn, write to us, and we will be more than happy to address anything that you have in your mind. All right. So thank you so much, Zishan. Thank you, Mohammed, for your time. It's
Thank
been
you,
a great
everyone.
session, and thank you for all the questions. It's been very interactive, and there are more questions, but still, I think that can be addressed on a more personal level because it's very, very specific, and we don't want to, take everybody's time addressing those questions.
Yes.
So thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, everyone.